my friend, it's Pat Sloan here on May the 1st. Happy May, happy May. How are you? I have got on May the 4th. May the 4th inch be with you. Since I'm not doing a video on May the 4th, but you have to celebrate. It's like made for quilters. May the 4th. Right? You get it? Right. Star Wars reference, but we turn it into a quilter's reference with a 4th inch. May the 4th inch be with you on May the 4th. And remember, I've got fun things that you can do. You can get besides a t-shirt. I don't want anybody to miss out. All right, we have a couple of, whirling around here in the studio. I'm going to talk about what's on the wall there, the baby quilt that came back. I have a little review of yesterday's block I mentioned was something we did as the traffic jam. I'm going to show you a little bit about that. And then Critter Quilt number 3. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to share this with you. First of all, today is May Day. It is also Mother Goose Day. Oh, do you have a nursery rhyme quilt with a mother goose on it, or just a goose quilt? I think, are geese coming back as a decorator image? I've seen a couple of patterns out there recently for quilts with geese. So I don't know if that's coming back. If it is, what fun. I've never really done a block with a goose on it, but I think they would be cute. So let me first show you the traffic jam. It's the block that we had yesterday. I then had used it a few years back, actually 2020, so it's 5 years ago now. We did it as a quilt along. Let's take a look. Let's start with this one that it looks like it was just an audition, but you can see I used a light green background. I did a bunch of these little sample blocks. Here's one with a dark gray background. It's the same fabrics for the plus, and I just switched out what is the background. And then hot pink. I don't think I did anything with those. I think they may have gone, those squares may have gone into something else. But then let me show you, here is one that's all scrappy. And that one I did turn into the whole quilt. Now, I have done this quilt several times. Let me show you another one with the blocks. These are in grays and green. Then here's the quilt. Traffic jam in gray. Now, that did not have those big polka dots. I guess I didn't do anything with that one. It was just a single block. Here is another one where I used all white or, light colors for the plus. And was that the big polka dot then? I have to scroll in here to see. Yeah, that was the big polka dot. So then I did the little skinny sashing. See how skinny that sashing is? And it really changes the look because the plus looks more like a grid now, and the little red sashing, it's very skinny, just gives it a whole different vibe than the other ones with the wider sashing. And then I promised to show you the one that I did for my brother. And this is a winter view. I actually didn't have a picture of it quilted. I guess I shipped it off. But here it is. And I think I was doing this one a little bit longer for him. And there's Tom. There's my brother Tom with his quilt. And he wanted one longer because he's tall, and I kept giving him ones that weren't long enough. So that was for him. Yay! That was fun to go through. I actually forgot how much I did with that block back when we did that project. How many variations I actually made, let alone just I did some. I remember doing some sample blocks, but yeah. So there you go. If you want to pick up the pattern for the add-on pattern to make it bigger version and support my small family business, I really appreciate that. Mwah, mwah. Okay, mini muffins. Let me grab this. Hold on. This is kind of my sideline project, the mini muffins, which is a free pattern from the Fat Quarter Shop. Links in the description box and the pinned end at my website. So I have 7. I have 7 blocks. And then the other day, there was some work that had to be, my computer needed to have some work, do its job, do some work, behind the scenes cleanup thing. And so that meant I could not use the computer, So I went ahead and grouped here's what I did. I grouped everything. So now now these are extras, and these are sets. These are the sets, and then there are the sew and flip corners, which I'm not doing any of those yet. So these are for all the 9 patches, so they're all ready to go. And then I just left these here just in case when I got to one of these, I thought like, oh, I'd like to switch something out. Like, you know, a couple of them have, you know, I actually have this in a lot more than I had originally planned because I have enough of it. Anyway, so these would be good, just go into my pinks and blue 2.5-inch square containers, whatever I don't use. So that is done, which, I mean, well, it's not done. It is organized. So I'm leaving them on that board, so that way I can just, they're kind of like my start and stops whenever I'm working. So that's good to leave it out. That mentally lets me really focus on that. Now, let's take a look at the baby quilt that came back. I just want to show you some up close on that. I put it up over top of Grandma's kitchen there. I think you could see it well enough. Now, this is the pattern that has the flange. We did this as a quilt along, and you can see they had the flange. And so my friend Karen, who long arms for me, she said this wasn't going to be a problem because she has a foot that's like a cup. And she says, so that doesn't catch into anything like a regular foot, which is flat, because it's curved up. It just smoothly goes over everything. We found a pattern that has, you can see, like there's a flower and this kind of a fern, and there's some little dragonflies. The baby's name is Violet. And don't you think this is perfect? Perfect, perfect. Yes, it's a family member's, new family member now. I'm going to flip this to the back because I want to show you what we had to deal with back there. Here's the gorgeous fabric that I used and was inspired to do this project because it was Rachel Rossi's fabric line with Benartex. And this is a gradation. This is yardage right here. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? And you can see the quilting, like especially right here along this section, right? You can see it really, really well. Look at the little bees. All right, so do you remember I took all the trimmings from this and I made this unit for the back because I thought, oh, that's really clever. It'll be really fun. I can use those up. I don't need to throw them away. Blah, blah, blah. So that that generated, you know, this flange on the back. And so when Karen and I talked about it, she said, why don't we tack it down somehow? And I'm like, yeah, okay. So if we do that, I said, if something flips over, it is not the end of the world. I am okay with that. It was my challenge. And it's not something you need to be too concerned about. But she goes, no, it'll work out. So there's a thread. There's always a thread when you're showing stuff. Pretend you don't see it. So what we did, or what Karen did for me, was she glue basted all this down. So basically these are all glue basted down, all the little flanges. So you can see I can't really get my finger under there right now. I will be washing this because it's for a baby, and that will just wash away the basting glue, and it's all perfect. Isn't that fantastic? And so I do need to get this trimmed and some binding and a label. My family always looks for the label. That's really what they look for first. I think the label will go on this side so that I don't interrupt that whole flow right here. You know, because you can see the quilting's just to right here. I've got the edges for her to put it on the long arm. So I think the label will go right down there. Okay, there you go. Ah, that was so fun. I'm so glad that my friend Karen was able to quilt that for me. Because originally I thought I would just do it myself, but then I'm like, you know, the design on it is so much prettier when she does it. I don't want to do that kind of thing anymore. I'm just not interested in majorly quilting my own quilts. I'd rather do other things with my time. So there you go. So she did that for me. I also want to tell you, if you like the Tula Pink Aliso irons, they are done manufacturing those. They have moved on. They're doing a K-facet one now. So they only do these as a limited amount of time, which I thought these were out there for quite a long time for it being a limited. So that was good. You had like about, you know what, like over a year that they were available. So they're going. If I find any with the big ones, I'll link you to it. Otherwise, there are still some of the small ones, and be sure you get one of those little wool holders if you pick it up. So if you really liked this design, you just need to get it soon, because it's not going to be there. It's going. Okay, the other thing is my cross stitch. I wanted to show you where I'm at in Mr. Lucky. Here's Mr. Lucky. So he's looking pretty good. I'm doing see the little dots in the dark green rainbow? They are white X's, and it's a tiny bit tedious. Not bad, but you know, I can't just quickly do them because I can't rock the needle like I want. I have to stab, and you can't really tell. Like, you could almost like not do them and just leave them as background, but I've already started them, and I did them on the yellow, so I might as well do them. Plus, I do want to put a few, I think I'm going to put a few yellow, and I'm not going to do the lines. I don't really want to do the lines for that, for the shamrock. But I need to pick a background to make it into a little quilt. So let me get my green fabric and pull a few options to take a look. I can right away eliminate anything that's large scale, like this is too large a scale. Anything that's dark, I don't want dark. So that can be eliminated. Now this might be too light, but this one might not be if there's enough. These were from one of my fabric lines. Let's see, same with this. This is from one of my fabric lines. And now that one is darker than I had thought, but it might actually be cute. You know, that's my fabric line, that's my fabric line, but I think that's the wrong color. It's just a little bit too dulled down. Yeah, so I need something a little bit brighter. Oh, here's another piece of that. Whoops, there, because I don't need a ton of it. Let's see. I have, that's too directional, like, and it reads too tiny. So let me just grab one or two others and see if I have something that's all. These are also mine here. These are mine, but they're just not the right shade. That's like a little bit of too celery. Here's some mushrooms. Okay, let me get those out. Here are the mushrooms, which are cute. They're cute. I'm thinking maybe it does need to be just a little bit darker. So let's see what this piece looks like here. Oh, those are just squares, so that's no good. But for color, you know, I'm just trying to do color here. So there is, oh, loving that. Loving that. I think this one will probably be too light, but you never know. Sometimes you just got to put it down there. Yeah, it's too light. I thought it was going to be too light. And here is one. How's that one look? You know, I'm smitten with this. This could be a cute inner border, couldn't it? Okay, and then this is darker than I want. So this is it. So I just need to be able to cut enough. Maybe we'll do that as the inner border and then this as the outer border. And then I could do, maybe I have enough of this, I could make it as the backing. So I think that's where I'm going to go. But at first I gotta finish stitching it. I have to finish stitching it. Yeah, that would be good. All right, my friend, we are now at the point. We are at the point where we're going to talk about the critter quilt. Let's go. The critter quilt number 3, because we've done 3 of these. The royal we. Let me just give you the quick backstory for those of you who might not have been with me here on my YouTube channel for the past 2, almost 3 years. A bunch of blocks were sent in to me as a gift, you know, a few blocks as a gift, and then people kept sending me animal blocks, and I finally decided, you know, I made a few, I kept a few, but that there were just so many, and it's like, that's enough now, let's do something with them. So I made these quilts, I designed the layouts, I split them into 3 different colorations. You can go to the quilt page for this at my website, which I'll have in the link in the description box and the pinned comment. And so, you know, over time, you know, it takes a bit of time to do this, and then I needed kind of a large break after the 3rd one was done to kind of focus on finding it a home, because we wanted to have a home where it could go to children, but that's kind of limiting because a lot of places where the children are, they want to have them under glass for germs and things like that. And So eventually, these are going to a library. The first one and this one are going to a elementary school library, and the second one went to a facility that works with families and children, and so they have like a sitting area, and they would go there. So anyway, on to number 3. Kathy's friend found a local school here in my area, just up the road, which is so fantastic. Aldrin Elementary, if you are anywhere in this area or had lived here in the past, it's actually where one of the chapters of the guild meet for their meetings here locally. And so what happened was I was put in contact with the librarian, Rhonda. Let me show you that. Let me show you Rhonda. So here is Rhonda. We emailed back and forth, and we had to pick a date. We had to work around the school schedule and her schedule. And she was like, on this day, my second graders will be leaving the library, and it'll be a great, good time. I'll have a break. And I'm like, fantastic. And so Greg and I went up to the elementary school, and Rhonda met us, and we went into the foyer of the elementary school in order to exchange the quilt and talk a little bit. But then what was so fantastic, she says to me, would you like to share the quilt with a class? She goes, I can have them come here, to the foyer. And I'm like, that would be absolutely fantastic. Rhonda herself is a maker. She has, I think, she's done a lot of sewing. Her son is a weaver for his hobby. She knows a lot about quilts. And so she was just over the moon. And she actually teaches about quilts in the library, which is fantastic. So a 3rd grade class came down. They were kind of waiting in the wings just so that she could bring them in. And they were extremely awesome. I've not, given a talk to children before, I don't think, ever. So let me show you a picture where we were holding the quilt up. You can kind of see the backs of their heads there, because we can't, show the children's faces, of course, that. But what we did, which I told them just briefly, I tried to be very brief because I figured their attention span was, like about that of a gnat. And so I gave a brief, why the quilt was made, and that all of you donated blocks, and from all different countries, et cetera, and so what really was fun for me is I thought, okay, they were very patient, they're very quiet, and then I said, what is your favorite animal? Oh my gosh, the explosion. Da, 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 da. So everybody was telling about the favorite animal. And then I asked them if they had a question, such as, is there any animal you can't identify? Because as you know, as quilt makers, we make sort of stylized animals sometimes, and they may not be easily identified by somebody not familiar with how we do things. And the bison was one that quite a few were interested in knowing what that animal was. And then they also wanted to know, there was a Scotty dog, and it's very small. So that was one that they were a little unsure of. And all in all, and I asked them, what was their favorite animal? And by this time they were getting, some of them were, done. They needed to go play or whatever. And so there's 2 little girls wrestling in the front, but trying to be very quiet about it. And Greg told me later, says, yeah, there was a couple on the end here that was, they were not paying at all attention, but they were really cute. And the one little boy, he asked me, which was my favorite animal, which was very, very sweet. I told him the frog on this quilt, and then wanted to know what was my favorite animal of all time. And so I told him a dog, because I had dogs. And that is how the Critter Quilt has gone on to a new home. It's very, very exciting to have it out in its new environment for lots and lots of children to learn about quilts and to enjoy the animals. Thank you to everybody here. Be sure to go look at the Critter page if you've never done that. It was so much fun. And they gave me a card, so sweet. Plus, okay, I probably have to stand up for this. Plus, you may have seen this actually hanging, I think in yesterday's video, up on my wall there. Look at this. They made me a thank you on a poster board. Oh, isn't that sweet? so sweet. It was such a great experience. If you have never donated a quilt to an organization, particularly like one with children, I highly recommend it. Thank you to everybody who sent critter blocks. It was such a fun project to do all of those. And I know a few of you have asked about the state fabrics, and yes, I have the state fabrics. That is another project like the critters where like I was just going to get one piece, but I ended up with 5 bags of fabric because you've all been so sweet and so kind. So it kind of blew my plan a bit because I would like to use a little bit more, and so that's kind of on hold. I have it on the calendar, it's on hold. Maybe I'll work on it by the end of this year. If not, it'll go into next year. So the bags are still there. I need to reduce down some so I can get like a subset to work with because it's not manageable at this point. I need less fabric in the collection to kind of look at it and figure out what's going on. So maybe at some point this year I'll start kind of going through by state and bring down to a working subset, and that'll be fun. All right. So I hope that you've enjoyed today. Let me know in the comments if you have donated a quilt to a children's organization, or if you have donated a quilt to a group and been able to go and talk to them about the quilt. It was so awesome. And again, thank you to my friend Kathy for connecting me to the people so that I could make this happen. So I love you. Mwah. Thank you for being here in the Sloan Zone on this May 1st. I'll see you online. Mwah.